Grand Instructor Zweigstal's crystalline appendages trembled as he watched the impossible unfold on the quantum hollow display. His three primary eyes dilated in disbelief while the secondary ones rapidly processed the incoming data streams. Before him, Cadet Nova Winchester, a first-year human student at the Galactic Military Academy, was dismantling centuries of established performance metrics. The Crucible, a training course designed to test the absolute limits of any sentient species, had never been completed in less than 3 standard cycles. Yet this human, this seemingly unremarkable specimen from a backwater solar system, was about to finish it in mere hours. "This must be a malfunction," muttered Sub-Instructor Krell, his bioluminescent patches pulsing with anxiety. "The environmental controls, perhaps?" "All systems are functioning within normal parameters," responded Technical Officer Vera, 7, her cybernetic interface whirring as she double-checked every sensor. "The human's vital signs are elevated but stable. She's not even showing signs of severe stress." Nova Winchester moved through the gravity-warped section of the course like water flowing downstream. Where other species required rest periods between each gravity shift, she adapted almost instantaneously. Her movements were fluid, efficient, and most disturbingly, appeared almost casual. The observation chamber had grown crowded as word spread through the academy. Instructors from various departments, each specialized in training different species, gathered to witness what many considered impossible. The Crucible was their ultimate test, designed to push beings to their absolute limits over days of carefully calibrated challenges. "Look at her cellular regeneration rate," whispered Dr. Helix, the Academy's chief xenobiologist. His tentacles were coiled tightly, a sign of intense concentration among his species. "The microtears in her muscles are healing almost as quickly as they form. I've never seen anything like it." The next section of the course was the thermal endurance chamber, alternating between extreme heat and cold. Most species required protective gear transitions, but Nova simply pushed through, her body adapting to temperature changes that should have induced shock. "Remarkable," murmured Ambassador Thex, who had arrived unannounced after hearing rumors of the event. "We knew humans were adaptable, but this exceeds all previous assessments." Nova reached the final challenge, the psychic barrier. Created by the most powerful mentarchs of the 7th dimension, it was designed to induce absolute mental fatigue. Beings typically spent days gathering the mental fortitude to push through it. Nova paused for the first time, her heart rate spiking on the monitors. The observers leaned forward, expecting her remarkable run to finally hit its limit. Instead, she closed her eyes, took 3 deep breaths, and simply walked through it. The chamber erupted in chaos. Electromagnetic species sparked involuntarily, crystalline beings resonated in harmonic distress, and even the usually stoic AI instructors experienced priority conflicts that manifested as visible glitches. "Course complete," announced the automated system. Time, 7 hours, 23 minutes, 14 seconds. New record established. Nova stood at the finish line, breathing heavily but steadily. She took a drink from her water container, stretched, and then did something that sent another wave of shock through the observers. She smiled and asked, "What's next?" Grand Instructor Zweigstal's crystalline form vibrated with a frequency that indicated deep concern. "Contact the Council," he ordered quietly. "The humans, we've underestimated them. Severely." Ambassador Thex moved closer to the window, studying Nova as medical drones performed their standard post-completion scan. "No," he said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of diplomatic experience. "We haven't just underestimated them. We've failed to understand them entirely. The question isn't what they're capable of, it's why they've been hiding these capabilities all along." As the chamber slowly emptied of stunned observers, Nova Winchester's performance data was already being transmitted across the galaxy. In thousands of diplomatic offices, military headquarters, and scientific institutions, alerts began to sound. Humanity had just unknowingly announced itself as something far more than anyone had imagined, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the medical bay, Nova sat patiently as Dr. Helix performed his scans, unaware that she had just triggered a chain of events that would reshape galactic society. She was already thinking about tomorrow's challenges, displaying that uniquely human trait that had brought her through the crucible, the constant drive to push further, to do more, to exceed every limit placed before them. The first ripples of change were spreading through the Academy, and soon they would become waves that would reach every corner of known space. Humanity's true potential was no longer a secret, and the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The Academy's central auditorium buzzed with an energy that made the photosensitive lighting crystals pulse erratically. 2 days had passed since Cadet Nova Winchester's unprecedented completion of the Crucible, and the situation had only grown more complex. Grand Instructor Zwyxtal stood before the assembled faculty, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns that conveyed deep unease. Behind him, a holographic display showed performance data from the past 48 hours. The numbers were impossible to ignore. Since Cadet Winchester's performance, 17 other human students have attempted the Crucible, he announced, his translator working overtime to convey the complex harmonics of his distress. 15 have completed it in under 10 hours. The other 2 finished in under 12. The assembled alien instructors erupted in a cacophony of reactions. Quantum phase beings flickered rapidly between states, while silicon-based life forms emitted high-frequency distress signals. Even the normally unflappable energy beings from the Helios cluster showed unusual wavelength fluctuations. That's not all, continued Technical Officer Vera, 7, stepping forward. Her cybernetic components whirred as she projected additional data streams. We've detected a pattern. Each human who attempts the course performs better than the last. They're learning, adapting, sharing information somehow. In the back of the room, Cadet Marcus Chen, another human student, watched the proceedings through a crack in the door. His presence went unnoticed as the faculty debated the implications of these developments. He needed to warn the others. The human dormitory section of the Academy had transformed into an unofficial command center. When Marcus arrived, he found Nova surrounded by other human cadets, all of them discussing their experiences in hushed tones. They're scared, Marcus reported, running a hand through his short black hair. Really scared. The kind of scared that makes people do stupid things. Nova nodded, her expression thoughtful. They don't understand what's happening. To be honest, neither do we. She turned to Cadet Raj Patel, who had completed the Crucible just hours earlier. What did you feel in there? Raj's dark eyes gleamed with excitement. It was like everything clicked. Once I knew it was possible, once I saw others do it, my body just knew what to do. Like unlocking something that was always there. Evolutionary response to demonstrated potential, suggested Cadet Diana Zhou, who had been top of their xenobiology class. Humans have always adapted faster when we know something is achievable. The 4-minute mile, free climbing El Capitan, deep freediving, once someone proves it can be done, others follow quickly. On the other side of the Academy, Dr. Helix was reaching similar conclusions as he reviewed cellular samples from the human cadets. His tentacles moved frantically across multiple interfaces, correlating data. Ambassador, he called out to Thex, who had remained at the Academy to observe developments. Look at this. Their cellular structure is actually changing, becoming more efficient with each challenge. It's not just psychological, they're physically adapting in real time. Ambassador Thex's iridescent scales shifted colors as he processed this information. The implications are staggering. If humans can adapt this quickly to known challenges, then what might they become when faced with unknown ones? Dr. Helix completed the thought. The question is, do we continue pushing them, knowing they might evolve beyond our ability to predict or control? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. That evening, as the Academy's triple moons rose over the horizon, alarms blared throughout the facility. Security feeds showed human cadets entering every training facility, every simulator, every testing chamber. "What are they doing?" demanded Grand Instructor Zyxtal as he watched the feeds. "Learning," replied Ambassador Thex softly. "They're doing what humans have always done, pushing boundaries simply because they exist." In the quantum combat arena, Nova Winchester stood before a training sequence rated for fifth-year students. Around her, other human cadets were similarly pushing themselves in different facilities. They had realized that the crucible was just the beginning. "Should we stop them?" asked Sub-Instructor Krell, his bioluminescent patches flickering anxiously. "Could we?" responded Ambassador Thex, watching as Nova began the sequence at a level that should have been impossible for her species. "They've tasted their potential. They know what they're capable of now. The real question is, what will they do with this knowledge?" As if in answer, Nova's voice came through the communication system, broadcasting to all her fellow human cadets, "Remember why we're here. We're not doing this to prove we're better. We're doing this to prove we're ready to stand alongside every species as true equals, ready to contribute to the galaxy in ways nobody expected. We're not here to conquer the impossible, we're here to redefine it." The aliens watching the feeds fell silent, realizing they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. Humanity wasn't just adapting to their standards, they were transforming them entirely. And this was only the beginning. In his private quarters, Ambassador Thex began composing a message to the Galactic Council. The words came slowly, carefully chosen: "We stand at a crossroads. Humanity has awakened to its true potential, and we must decide, do we embrace this evolution, or do we fear it? Their next steps will be determined largely by our reaction to this moment. And I fear we have precious little time to decide." The Academy's secure conference chamber had never hosted such a diverse gathering of species. Representatives from 12 major galactic civilizations sat around the quantum phase table, their attention fixed on Dr. Helix's presentation. The xenobiologist's tentacles moved with unusual precision as he displayed the latest research findings. "What you're seeing is unprecedented," he explained, manipulating a three-dimensional model of human cellular structure. "The human cadets aren't just getting stronger or faster, they're fundamentally rewriting their own biological code in response to challenges." The holographic display shifted to show comparative scans of Nova Winchester's neural pathways before and after the crucible. The difference was striking: new connections had formed, creating patterns that shouldn't have been possible in such a short time. "Furthermore," continued Dr. Helix, "they're doing this collectively. When one human overcomes a challenge, the others don't just learn from observation, their bodies actually prepare for similar adaptation on a cellular level. It's as if their entire species evolved to share evolutionary advantages almost instantaneously." The Mentarch representative, a being of pure thought energy, pulsed with concern. "This explains much about their historical development. Their rapid advancement from primitive technology to space travel in mere centuries, it wasn't just innovation. Their biology was evolving in real time to match their ambitions. In the training sectors, that evolution was becoming increasingly evident. Nova and her fellow cadets had progressed beyond simple physical challenges. They were now tackling complex tactical scenarios designed for species with far more advanced natural capabilities. Cadet Diana Zhou had mastered a simulation meant for beings with precognitive abilities. Her solution? Using human pattern recognition and intuition to achieve nearly identical results. Meanwhile, Marcus Chen had found ways to match the reaction speed of quantum phase beings through what he called predictive movement. Ambassador Thex observed these developments with growing fascination. "They're not just adapting to match other species' abilities," he reported to the council. "They're finding uniquely human ways to achieve the same results. It's not mimicry, it's innovation." The revelation sparked intense debate among the Academy's leadership. Some saw tremendous potential in this human adaptability. Others warned of the dangers of a species that could so rapidly evolve to match or exceed the capabilities of others. Grand Instructor Zywaxdal found himself caught between these perspectives as he watched Raj Patel navigate a diplomatic simulation. The human cadet was simultaneously processing cultural inputs from 5 different species, something that should have required multiple specialized neural implants. "How are you managing this?" Zywaxdal asked during a brief pause in the simulation. Raj's response was characteristically human: "We've always had to understand different perspectives to survive. Our planet has thousands of cultures, languages, and ways of thinking. We learned to adapt to new viewpoints long before we reached the stars." This explanation sparked a new line of investigation. Dr. Helix and his team began examining Earth's historical records with fresh eyes. The planet's extreme biodiversity, its rapidly changing climate, and its countless distinct cultures had created perfect conditions for breeding adaptability. Humans didn't evolve to be the strongest, fastest, or most intelligent, Dr. Helix explained to a packed auditorium. They evolved to become whatever they needed to be. Their greatest advantage isn't any specific capability, it's their capacity to develop new capabilities almost on demand. The implications of this discovery rippled through galactic society. Some species began proposing immediate restrictions on human development. Others sought closer alliances, recognizing the potential benefits of partnership with such an adaptable species. In the midst of this growing political storm, Nova Winchester made another breakthrough. During a joint training exercise, she demonstrated the ability to synchronize with a group of silicon-based beings, matching their crystalline thought patterns through careful modulation of her own neural activity. "This is what we've been trying to explain," she told the stunned observers. "Humans don't want to replace or overshadow anyone. We want to understand, to connect, to find ways to work together that nobody has imagined before." Her words carried weight, but they also carried warning. Humanity's potential for adaptation meant they could become powerful allies, or formidable adversaries, depending on how the galactic community chose to respond to their emergence. Ambassador Thex, watching the recording of Nova's demonstration, turned to Grand Instructor Zywaxdal. "We stand at a crossroads," he said, his scales shifting through shades of deep thought. "The humans have shown us what they can become. Now we must decide, do we help shape that becoming, or do we risk them shaping themselves in response to our fear?" As if to underscore his point, alerts began flashing across the Academy's information networks. More human cadets were arriving from Earth, drawn by word of what their peers had accomplished. Each one carried the same potential for rapid adaptation, the same capacity for revolutionary change. The galaxy was about to change, ready or not. The only question was whether that change would come through cooperation or conflict. As Nova and her fellow cadets continued their training, they carried not just their own futures, but the future of human-alien relations in their rapidly evolving hands. The Galactic Council's emergency session was visible on every holoscreen throughout the Academy. Nova Winchester watched from the training facility as representatives from across known space debated humanity's place in the cosmic order. The atmosphere was electric with tension. "The humans have concealed their true potential from us," declared High Commander Vrex of the Draconian Empire, his scaled face contorted with suspicion. "How can we trust a species that adapts not just physically, but culturally and technologically at such an alarming rate?" The Academy had become the epicenter of this galactic debate. In the 3 weeks since the initial revelations about human adaptability, the facility had transformed into something between a research center and a diplomatic hub. Scientists, military leaders, and politicians from hundreds of worlds arrived daily to observe the human cadets. Marcus Chin stood at a quantum targeting range, demonstrating how humans could achieve precision once thought impossible without cybernetic enhancement. "We're not hiding anything," he explained to a group of observing diplomats. "We're discovering these abilities alongside you." In her laboratory, Diana Zhou worked with a team of alien scientists, helping them understand how human intuition could complement their more structured approach to research. It's not about replacing your methods, she explained, but adding new perspectives. Ambassador Thex moved through the corridors, now crowded with representatives from various species, each pursuing their own agenda regarding humanity's emergence. Some sought alliance, others advocated containment, and a few whispered about more drastic measures. The Collective of Free Worlds proposes immediate integration of human capabilities into joint defense initiatives, announced the crystalline representative on the council feed. Their adaptability could revolutionize our approach to emerging threats. And if they become the threat, countered another voice. A species that can match our strengths while maintaining their own unique advantages, the potential for destabilization is unprecedented. Grand Instructor Zweixtal found himself increasingly acting as a mediator between factions. We must remember, he addressed a group of concerned military officials, that these humans came to us as students, eager to learn and contribute. Their achievements have all been in the pursuit of understanding and cooperation. But events were spiraling beyond the Academy's walls. Reports arrived of human performance records being broken across the galaxy. On distant mining colonies, human workers were adapting to toxic atmospheres faster than their environmental suits could be upgraded. In deep space research stations, human scientists were processing complex data streams with increasing efficiency, their brains restructuring to handle the load. Raj Patel, monitoring communications from Earth, brought concerning news to Nova. Some worlds are already calling for restrictions on human movement and development. Others are trying to recruit us as everything from military assets to research subjects. The situation reached a critical point when a radical faction attempted to sabotage the Academy's training facilities. Their goal: prevent humans from accessing more advanced training scenarios. The attempt failed, but not because of security measures. A group of human cadets had sensed the danger and adapted their nervous systems to detect the subtle electromagnetic signatures of the saboteurs' equipment. This is exactly what we feared, proclaimed the faction supporters. They're developing defensive capabilities we didn't even know they could possess. But Ambassador Thex saw it differently. Addressing the council, his scales now pulsing with urgent colors, he spoke. The humans didn't respond with violence or retaliation. They protected themselves and others while minimizing harm. Their adaptability serves their deeper nature, a drive to connect, to protect, to understand. In the Academy's central courtyard, Nova organized an unprecedented demonstration. Human cadets worked in perfect synchronization with students from 30 different species, each group adapting to complement the other's strengths. The display was broadcast across the galaxy. We don't want to dominate or outcompete, Nova's voice carried across the transmission. Humans adapt because we dream of a galaxy where every species can achieve its full potential. We change not to stand above, but to stand beside. The message resonated, but the political storm continued to build. Some worlds began fortifying their borders against human expansion. Others opened their universities and research centers to human collaboration. The galaxy was dividing along lines of fear and hope. Dr. Helix, continuing his research, made another startling discovery. The rate of human adaptation increases in response to cooperation rather than competition. They evolve faster when working to support others than when striving against them. As the day ended, Nova stood with her fellow cadets, watching the 3 moons rise over the Academy. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new fears to allay, new bridges to build. But for now, they had shown the galaxy something crucial. Humanity's greatest adaptation wasn't their ability to change, but their capacity to help others embrace change alongside them. The Academy's Grand Assembly Hall had never been designed to hold representatives from every known spacefaring civilization. Yet today, through a combination of quantum space manipulation and human ingenuity, it did exactly that. Nova Winchester stood at the center of the vast chamber, surrounded by the gathered wisdom of the galaxy. The past month had brought the known universe to a tipping point. Half the galactic powers had signed treaties of cooperation with Earth, while others maintained a policy of cautious isolation. A few had even begun military preparations, fearing the implications of human adaptability. "We gather today," began Ambassador Thex, his scales shimmering with ceremonial patterns, "to address the greatest challenge our collective civilizations have faced, the emergence of a species that defies our understanding of evolutionary limits." But as he spoke, alarms blared throughout the academy. Dr. Helix burst into the chamber, his tentacles writhing with urgency. "The Nexus," he shouted. "Something's wrong with the Quantum Nexus." The Quantum Nexus, the Academy's experimental faster-than-light communication hub, had begun experiencing unprecedented fluctuations. The very fabric of spacetime around it was destabilizing, threatening to create a rupture that could tear the Academy, and half the sector, apart. "The containment fields are failing," reported Technical Officer Vera, 7, her cybernetic systems struggling to process the cascade of errors. "No known species can survive the quantum flux long enough to reach the manual override." Nova exchanged glances with her fellow human cadets. Without a word, they understood what needed to be done. As the alien representatives evacuated, the humans moved toward the Nexus Control Center. "It's not just about physical adaptation now," Nova explained as they ran. "We need to evolve our minds to comprehend quantum states we've never encountered. We need to become something new." Marcus, Diana, and Raj joined her at the entrance to the Nexus chamber. The air itself seemed to shimmer with deadly quantum possibilities. Grand Instructor Zwextal's crystalline form vibrated with concern. "Even if you survive the radiation, the quantum flux will alter your very existence. You may never be the same." "That's what humans do best," Diana replied with a confident smile. "We change. We adapt. We become what we need to be." They stepped into the chamber together. The quantum flux hit them like a wall of lightning, every atom in their bodies screaming for transformation. But instead of fighting it, they embraced it. Their consciousness expanded, their DNA rewriting itself in real time to match the quantum reality around them. The assembled galactic representatives watched in awe through the chamber's monitoring systems as the humans began to glow with quantum energy. Their forms shifted between states of matter, their minds processing reality on both particle and wave levels simultaneously. "Impossible," whispered the Mentarch representative. "They're not just adapting to the quantum flux, they're harmonizing with it." Working together, the human cadets reached the Nexus core. Their newly quantum-adapted minds could see the problem, a fundamental flaw in the underlying code of reality itself. But they could also see the solution, not as individuals, but as a collective consciousness operating across multiple quantum states. Nova's voice, now carrying harmonic overtones that resonated across dimensions, echoed through the Academy, "We're not just fixing the machine. We're improving it. The quantum nexus can be more than a communication device, it can be a bridge between all forms of consciousness." As they worked, something extraordinary happened. The quantum field they generated began to resonate with the neural patterns of every species present. For a brief moment, the entire assembly experienced a shared consciousness, a glimpse of ultimate unity through diversity. When it was over, the humans emerged transformed but still fundamentally themselves. Their eyes now held the depth of quantum awareness, but their smiles remained purely human. Ambassador Thex approached Nova, his scales displaying colors never before seen in his species. "You've done more than save us," he said. "You've shown us what's possible when we embrace change instead of fearing it." The Galactic Council convened an immediate session. The unanimous decision that followed would reshape the cosmos. Humanity would not be contained or controlled, but welcomed as teachers and pioneers of adaptation. The Academy would be transformed into a center for collaborative evolution, where all species could learn to grow beyond their perceived limitations. "We understand now," Grand Instructor Zwextal announced to the Assembly, that the humans' greatest gift to the galaxy isn't their adaptability, it's their willingness to adapt for the benefit of all. Nova stood with her fellow cadets, their forms still occasionally flickering with quantum energy, as they watched the 3 moons set on a new era. They had proven that humanity's true strength lay not in becoming superior, but in helping every species discover their own potential for growth and change. "What's next?" asked Marcus, echoing the question that had started it all. Nova smiled, her quantum-enhanced vision seeing countless possible futures branching before them. "Everything," she replied. "And we'll face it together." The Academy's archives would record this as the day the galaxy learned its greatest lesson, that evolution itself could evolve, that change could change, and that the greatest adaptation of all was learning to help others adapt alongside you. As ships departed the Academy, carrying news of these events to every corner of known space, the human cadets began preparing for their next challenge, teaching the galaxy not just to accept change, but to embrace it as an opportunity for universal growth. The future they had glimpsed in that moment of quantum unity was not just possible, it was inevitable, one adaptation at a time.